Blog Talk Radio.
Clap your hands for Angela.
Hello, you're listening to Show Talk with Angela Butler. Today, the interviews with Miss Shante McLaughlin. Miss McLaughlin has two mental disorders. She functions well on medication. Once she is off her medication, she does not function well. I'm going to let you all listen to Miss Shante McLaughlin. She had triplets and only has one child that they're saying that she actually have. She was taken off according to her. I'm going to let her tell you about the white doctor that took her off her medication for wanting to protest or participate in about a murder there in Georgia. How are you doing, Miss Shante?
I'm doing just fine. How are you today?
I'm doing good. So this white doctor took you off your medication. Am I correct? Tell your story. Because you were going to protest. Am I correct?
Yes, I wasn't protesting a murder then, but I have protested several murders since then, which always puts me under scrutiny of being blackballed and everything else. But then I was actually you know what? You're right. I was on my way to Ferguson to protest, and she said I was too high functioning. But in the city of Atlanta, I had been advocating mental health medication to impact the recidivism rate so that people stopped going to and from jail, because you had people being arrested 50 and 60 times just because they didn't have their mental health medicine. And in Georgia, Atlanta is well known for doing things like dropping you, like they'll pick you up and put you in the hospital, and they'll discharge you at like 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, sometimes in your medical gown from some of the hospitals. So some of the hospitals have come under strict scrutiny there because of their practices of dealing with people who are either in mental duress or homelessness or things like that. So my story is I was working with Streets 94.5. I was working with one of the radio stations there. I was the media buyer with the $1 million budget. I had a billionaire flying me around, consulting on mental health, consulting on marketing projects, and my doctor said I was too high functioning, my white doctor, and that I no longer needed my mental health meds. And she cold turkeyed me and took me off the meds. And even with me going repeatedly to the hospital requesting my meds, she refused to put me back on. I went from living in a 2-story, 4-bedroom, 3-bath house to being street-level homeless, and she still would not put me back on my mental health medication, with me repeatedly asking, with me repeatedly going to jail. Before then, I had been to jail one time, and that was for criminal trespassing. At this point, I don't know how many times I went to jail. Like, I can't even count how many times I went to jail, and she still wouldn't put me back on my meds.
This white doctor or not?
No, ma'am.
Even after you went to jail? And how many times had you went to jail when you asked to be put back on your medication?
Well, before that, I'd only been to jail one time, before that, I'd only been to jail one time, and like I said,
Okay,
that was
just go
for
in.
yes, before that, and that was in 2008 when I first went. So I got my mental health diagnosis because I was assaulted and robbed. And when I first got assaulted and robbed, I went to jail for criminal trespassing, and I had no other arrest record other than that. And so when
So you went
I
back to
came
get
off
your
of my
things.
mental health medication,
You went back to get your things.
no, I was walking the streets talking to myself, and they arrested me for that, and they charged me with criminal trespassing.
Okay.
So that was my own, and I went through the mental health diversion court, and that was my only time of being. That was my only time of being in the judicial system. I'd never been to Grady Hospital. I'd never been to jail, none of that. Like, I always had insurance, and if I didn't have insurance, I had the money to pay for my medical care out of pocket. So I just, I was always very self-sufficient. When I was in college, I actually worked in mergers and acquisitions for a major insurance company. And then I actually quit there to wait tables in a club, but I made more money in the club waiting tables, and I worked for Puff Daddy waiting tables at his restaurant. So I made close to six figures while I was in college. So, it wasn't a real issue, until then.
So Puff Daddy paid pretty good.
Well, I waited tables. I made $80,000 that year. My records can be verified. I think that was 99. I made $80,000, and then I had my own nightclub in Florida. I'd worked for Cumulus Media as well, and I was their lead sales rep. So when I left there, I had my clientele base. So I was able to put artists on tour with big name artists in the hip-hop industry, such as the Rick Ross, the Lil Wayne. I promoted concerts. I did car shows. I had a 9-to-5 job in a promotions company. So that year, I did not make a lot of money, but I wrote off $485,000 that year. So somewhere in there, I had $485,000 to come in, which looked like a lot of work, which probably led to my mental health, all of that work. But, needless to say, of how I got there. And, for my doctor to say that I was too high to take me off of my meds and to have never been held to account, her medical license has never been called under scrutiny or anything. And then when I was there at the hospital, one of the times that I was arrested, I was placed on a homeless floor where they just pick you up off the street. And anyone that's in psychosis, they put you in a room, males, females, doesn't matter what age. Like, you have to be of age, but they just dump everyone in one room. And I was like 6 or 7 months pregnant, and you're in this room, and they give you a form, and they're like, you can sign off to be used inside of medical research, or you can go to jail. And those are your only two options. There is no option to just leave. That's
and where
not
did this
an
happen
option.
at?
That happened at Grady Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia.
So after you left Florida, it's pretty much when things went downhill when you went to Atlanta.
Well, no, I actually lived in Atlanta. I went to college in Atlanta. I received my undergrad. Well, I actually received my undergrad from Georgia State University. And when I got pregnant with her, who's 18 now, my parents lived in Mobile, Alabama, which is where I'm located at right now. So I moved to Mobile, and I worked for a hip-hop station that covered 3 states, which was Florida, Alabama, and Mississippi. And so when I left the hip-hop station, I went to Florida and opened a nightclub because I had big-name artists such as, like, the Roy Jones Jr. I just had a big clientele base, so I was able to take care of myself a little more. And I knew the climate a little more than I did with Atlanta in the music industry. Atlanta, I knew the modeling industry. I'd worked for 8 years at John Casablanca's teaching classes. I was in Modern Bride magazine. And like I said, I taught classes on the weekends for JC for 8 years, and I hosted fashion shows of like LA Fitness and Nature Valley granola bars and places like that, and insurance. So when I got pregnant, I returned to Alabama. I worked at a temp agency for a adjusting company, and when my temporary position during my pregnancy and after I delivered, I didn't know what I was going to do. I had this newborn child. I had a degree, and I had a bunch of insurance licenses. And so it was like, what am I going to do? And my friend heard something on the radio, so I ended up responding to that job lead, which got me a career in the music industry. And then from there, I returned back to Atlanta. And it wasn't so much of everything going downhill. It was just I was stressed out, overworked, tired, and just dealing with life and failing companies, still trying to grasp and hold on, and still trying to hold on to my mental health at the same time. And I wasn't doing a good job at it, just being straight. And so I do have my master's degree from Morehouse School of Medicine as well. And I have my health science teaching certification from Morehouse School of Medicine where I can teach undergrad. I obtained those this last year. In fact, graduation is December 15th. So I've been able to achieve those things. I ran for public office in Atlanta, in East Point. I ran for city council at East Point in 2021. So it's like these same people who might call into question my mental health on if I deliver triplets, they don't call into question my mental health when it's time for me to work on their campaigns or when it's time for me to raise funds for them or when it's time for me to write their speeches. I'm more than competent then, but when it's time for me to talk about my missing children, nobody wants to wants to actually follow through with an investigation. And I don't understand that.
You don't understand. You don't know where your 3 children are at.
No, ma'am. I have one.
Tell me about you're obviously very intelligent woman, educated. The medication thing. When you got off the medication, is that when you got pregnant, or were you already pregnant?
No, I got pregnant when I got off the medication.
Okay.
I was actually in a totally different relationship, and I'd never been in a domestic violence relationship. I was engaged, and when I got off the medication, my partner, it did not turn into black eyes, but had I not left, I'm sure that I would not be alive. I'll put it like that. He was playing with a gun, threatening to kill me, and calling me derogatory names and running behind the car, and was in a very unsafe space. And I can be what I can be accountable for, not to blame for. Like, let me make that clear, because I don't want to send that message out that women are to blame or men are to blame for domestic violence. But what I can be accountable for is the breakdown also impacting a lot of my actions and the way that I behaved and the way that I would normally handle a problem and communicate and things like that. So, there's something to be accountable for on both sides. But the result was him threatening to kill me and me knowing if I didn't get out that relationship then I probably would have lost my life. And so after that, I was at a friend's house with my son, who was 10 at the time, and we stayed at the top. She had a 2-story house with a basement. She stayed in the basement, and we stayed in the 2 other levels. And we just it was a difficult time in my life. I'll say it like that. But my son, he's fine now. He's 18. He graduated. I got pregnant. I met my triplets dad. Well, I actually knew my triplets dad from the sports bar. He used to come up to the sports bar with his horses. He owns a horse ranch, an 80-acre sports ranch, and he's a celebrity DJ. So we'd known of each other. We didn't really know each other. He'd come up to the sports bar that I was the media buyer for, and sometimes he'd ask me to watch his horses and stuff like that. And I was horseback riding with some friends while off meds still. I just hadn't been out the house in about 7 or 8 months. Like, it wasn't all the way downhill at this point, but it was bad. It wasn't going to jail yet. It was just hallucinating and crying, spouts and spurts, and not really being in touch with my emotions. I was in that space, and so he felt that he could heal me through nature, and I fell for it. And about a year and a half later, I got pregnant. So I was off of meds for about 3 years total. So yeah.
All right. So what happened in jail? With delivery?
Well, with my delivery, I was due in September. I didn't deliver until November, but I also didn't receive any food. For the most part, I might get a sandwich with 3 cookies and Kool-Aid packet in it once every 2 or 3 days. I didn't get any hot meals at all while I was incarcerated. And at first I was getting showers. I got like 10 showers the first couple of months that I was in jail. I delivered in November. I delivered November 19th. From November to June, before they transported me to Georgia Regional, they didn't give me any showers. I'd lost so much weight that they take things. They come and take the like they might bring me pads with no underwear, or they might take my mat so that I'd have just a blanket, but I didn't have anything to stop the flow of blood from, giving birth. So they might leave me with a bloody blanket, and they may take my
These were white people or black people?
No, these were black officers. All of the officers that were transporting me were black. That were with me. There was one white officer that transported me from Clayton County to Fulton County because my original charge, was criminal trespassing and disorderly conduct. And the officer didn't Mirandize me. And so I didn't plead. I went per se so that I'd represent myself. And although I was in psychosis, I knew that I wasn't Mirandized. So I asked the judge, I said, I had one statement, for the officer, or one question, did you Mirandize me? And he said yes. And I asked him if he minded reciting the Miranda rights. He didn't know the Miranda rights. And I asked for the case to be dismissed and all charges dropped. And so the judge was like, you're going to stand here and you're going to answer more of my questions. And so after that, they sent me back to my cell, and this is in Clayton County, which is neighboring to Atlanta, Atlanta's Fulton County. Clayton is a neighbor city, and so, or neighbor county. So when they sent me back to my cell, they threw in obstruction of justice to an officer, a separate officer, another officer that was on the scene, Officer Peace, when he came into my friend's house. Because at this point, we were just, my friends were just calling the police on me every time I went somewhere. We were just trying to get me my meds. So we were like, okay, call the police, like whatever it takes to get her meds or to get me. in a place where I'm not sleeping outside, or I'm not, just somewhere stable so that I'm not harmed, because I was so far along in my pregnancy, and I literally slept outside, 2 chairs. I didn't sleep on the concrete, but I slept with 2 chairs together while having a big belly, grabbed me by my hair and was holding my face into the pillow. And with me kicking and screaming, he grabbed me and yanked me by my arm once he handcuffed me and put me in the car. So when they sent me back to the court, they charged me with obstruction of justice to Officer Peace. And so I thought the whole time that I was in jail that I was being held for criminal trespassing. When all of this happened, I did not go back before the judge. I stayed in jail for like 3 more weeks, and then Fulton County came and got me, and they re-fingerprinted me, and I didn't know I was being charged with anything else. And so when it was time for me to deliver, they kept telling the director of Grady was there, Director Rhonda Scott.
Now, how did you know you were having triplets?
When I was on that homeless floor, they said I was having twins. I knew I had triplets when I actually gave birth. I knew that I was having twins based off of a sonogram. When I gave birth, they said that I had triplets. Well, they didn't say. I mean, I delivered back to back. Gregory came, then Malcolm, then Melina.
And you named them?
I named them, and I held them for 2 days. They had them in the room with me.
And then they took them from you.
Well, after 2 days, they took me back to the jail cell. And when they took me back to the jail cell, like I said, I was just in a cell. Like, I might be in the cell for a month with no books, no access to the outside world, no anything, no food. I'm just in a cell. And then they, when they did start transporting me, they transport me to another cell and just kind of leave me in that cell, but they weren't taking me to court. I didn't go to court. I didn't go to court for any of those. Like, after those initial charges, I hadn't gone to court until it was time for me to be released. And that was back in Clayton County, because Clayton County didn't even know that Fulton County had me. Clayton County had a warrant out for my arrest, thinking that I had bonded out and skipped bond.
They wanted your babies, didn't they?
They wanted my babies. They did. And my children's dad, he had just, because when I went with very intrusive questions, and he was like, who's your children's dad? Do you know this? Do you know that? And he had, he went to jail at the same time that I was in jail. They found 4 dead horses on his property, so they were arresting him at the same, like, I'm in jail watching him be arrested too. And he had just won, like a year or 2 years before that, one of the major magazines in Atlanta had voted him the most eligible bachelor in the city of Atlanta, which is huge for it to be a major publication in Atlanta. And with Atlanta being the city that it is, to have something like that, like they just wanted our babies. Because even with Gregory, the one that I have now, they refused to release him to my mother. Like, my mom is a military veteran, but she and my stepdad have been married 20 plus years. They're homeowners. They're retired. She built planes for a living for Gulfstream and British Aerodynamics when I was growing up. So, so very stable. Nothing, never defects on me or anything like that. One of my friends, he's an entertainment attorney who has different children that he's taken in before. They wouldn't release my son to any of my friends or family. One of my cousins is a foster parent. One of my other friends is a foster parent. They wouldn't release him.
They wanted all 4 of your children to sell to somebody.
They must have, because my son Bryce, they told me, they said he's going to be with your mom for the rest of his life. And Gregory, the one that's in defects, he's about to be adopted out. Like, they tried to encourage. The original family were a white couple and she was a former DFACS case manager. And the first 30 days, they were encouraging her to adopt him. And she told me the only reason why she didn't adopt him is because he was black. She told me out of her mouth. She said that she felt that he had enough stigmas to overcome in life, and the last thing he needed was to have a white mom with him being an all-black child, and for him to have to explain that to the kids at school. So the respite was fighting me for him. When I got out of jail, that wasn't it. When I got out of jail, the first week that I was home from jail, because although my charges ended up being dead docketed, they didn't say I was guilty or innocent. Georgia doesn't. Georgia has something called dead docketing where they'll just leave it on your record.
Don't go back to Georgia.
Yeah.
Never go back there.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So.
And that's where your children are, but you're not safe there. You're not safe in Atlanta, Clayton County, and Fulton County. You're not safe.
I'm not
in Georgia.
I'm in Mobile now with my mother, and she's
Don't
like,
say
just
where
rest.
you're at.
Yes,
I don't know who's going to listen to this show. Don't go back to Georgia. I'm sorry about your children. You need to contact FBI there in Alabama, but don't go back to Georgia.
Yes, ma'am. It started getting really rough after I got both of my kids back. Every time we moved, there was a new defects case open. And at some point, right before reunification, they tried to have me pay child support for Gregory, although he was in foster care. Like, they made it really difficult to get him back. I went to court every month. They wanted me, like, I had 3 streams of income, but it was next to near impossible. Like, had I not been as resourceful and known some of the people that I knew, I wouldn't have got him. Like, they gave me Section 8, but had I actually utilized the Section 8, I would have lost custody of my 7-year-old that I do have.
These were black views. The white doctor that took you off the medication.
Yes.
And they put you on medication because you were talking to yourself because you've been assaulted and robbed, and you were under stress, duress, and stress from all the work.
Yes.
And you needed the medication.
Yes, and I needed the medication.
And what were you diagnosed with?
At the time, I was diagnosed with schizophrenia, schizoaffective, and bipolar and psychosis. And I got reevaluated, and they said bipolar 2 with psychosis.
Okay. Reevaluated. Okay. I'm so sorry this happened to you. You're obviously an intelligent young woman. You can't be any older than your 40s or 30s.
I'm in my 40s. I'm 44.
Yeah. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry that doctor took you off the medication. I'm sorry you were robbed. I'm sorry you were assaulted. How were you assaulted? Were you raped?
No. I was hit upside. I was hit upside the head with a bag. I don't know what was in the bag. I think I was set up. Actually, I was at a friend's house. I had a designer bag and a lot of cash on me. And
it's a shame you couldn't afford it, bodyguards.
Nope, not at that point in my life. I don't know if I even thought about it, actually. Yeah. You know, you have a false sense of security. Back then, I was privileged. I didn't know that there were stories like this. I didn't know that the evils existed. I didn't know that there were people stealing people's babies, and I didn't know that this was still the conversation. You know, you think that we've arrived somewhere, and then one day you realize that we haven't arrived. We're still in a fight. And
not only are you in a fight, these were black people and a white doctor.
They were, but that really shows that we haven't arrived anywhere. We're still in a fight, you know, because whether it's black people, white doctors, black doctors, like, They're stealing babies in 2023. They're putting people in, like I was on my way to Ferguson. Like, we still have the Mike Browns. We still have the Tyree Nichols. We still have
Then that's why she took you off your medication. You do know that, don't you?
Yes, ma'am. Because I woke up.
She took you off your medication because you were on your way to protest that with Mike Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, that white doctor. But nevertheless, they had no business stealing your babies. Those are human beings that you birth, and those are your babies that God put you in charge of. So they turned old enough to take care of themselves, and they had no right to do that. They had no right to take advantage of your situation.
I agree.
Illegally take advantage of your situation. Those black people had no right to do that. It's illegal. It's a crime. Many crimes. How many DAs have you contacted? FBI people have you contacted?
I've contacted I've talked to the United Nations. I've talked to the GBI. I've talked to Fannie Willis's office. I've talked to multiple people in Fannie Willis's office. I've talked to county commissioners, city council members.
Maybe you should try outside of Georgia. Try talking to people outside of Georgia.
I've gone to D.C. and actually met with people in D.C. and talked to people in D.C. I haven't really attempted to talk to, like, FBI agents in, like how you said, to contact the FBI in Alabama. I have not done that. I've spent a lot of efforts going directly to D.C. and trying to contact people there. My aunt works for the Pentagon, and she couldn't get anywhere. I've talked to the governor. I consulted with the Taylor English law firm on their voter suppression law, voter participation law, whichever way you want to write.
So the lawsuit, did you get anything at the lawsuit with the
No.
With the was it
they
the
said
jail or the hospital?
No, they said that
did they sue? Who was sued?
They sued Fulton County Women's Detention Center, and it was the Georgia Advocacy Office, and it was Southern Center for Human Rights. They said it was for the people who are still currently incarcerated, because they had women with mental health who had been in jail for 2 and 3 years who had $500 bonds, which, of course, leads me to wonder, why were they, when I was there, I was asking questions like, well, if we're in an all-female facility, why are there males on the bus being transported here to the jail with me to an all-female facility? And then you think about women being there for 2 and 3 years for simple charges.
That's stealing those babies. How many other women were pregnant there in that jail with you?
5. Well, 4, not including myself. There were 2 who had delivered before me, one of which was on that floor with me. There was another one who actually had her birth record in her hand. She had handcuffs and she had slapped me across my face, but she was holding her birth record of her baby. And then there was another one who was just pregnant. And that's who I saw. And that's only in literally being let out of my cell, handcuffed to 10 other women at the front, and then being on a van, or someone bringing me a cup of water.
Did they have their babies?
The 2 before me did not have their babies. They could not find their children. No.
So they're taking women who are mentally ill, causing them completely insane, not giving. Did they give you any medication? I know you had to sign a form. You said, did you sign a form agreeing to experimental medication to get out of jail or to get medication?
No, I that form that I signed was at Grady Hospital, but when I was in jail, I didn't sign any forms, and no, they did not give me any medication. What they did like a controlled environment the first couple of days in the Clayton County Jail, where they put you in a cell, and there might be like blood splatter on the wall and stuff like that, and they give you a mat, and it looks like the bed area looks different, and they might come at 4 or 5 in the morning, and it's like 7 or 8 people in lab coats, and they knock on the window, and you jump up, and whatever your response is, they record it, and that's it. And
I was in Brady Hospital or the Fulton County Jail or the Clayton County Jail.
That was at the Clayton County Jail. That was at the Clayton County Jail. And then they move you to another jail and another jail cell where it looks a lot different than that, and they do something similar to that. But do
you know how long you were in Brady County Hospital?
Grady Hospital, I was there for 1 month, but I delivered there. I was there for 1 month with the experimental floor, and they discharged me to Peachtree and Pine, but I had already caught a charge. I had an aggravated assault charge. Can't go there. I mean, I'm banned from the property. And they're like, well, we don't care. That's where we're discharging you to, and they discharged me to a property that I was banned from. And so yeah, but the Fulton County Women's Detention Center, I did not sign off on anything to not be given medication. In fact, when it was time for me to receive my epidural, they shot me in my back 7 times. I have curvature to my spine right now that I didn't have before. But they shot me in my back 7 times to give me an epidural with no pain medicine.
Oh my God, that must have been painful.
It was. It
horribly
was
painful. Oh my God.
And they
stitched me. It's horrible.
My medical record said that they stitched me with Benadryl. So the
Bible says, "Woe unto them who get sucked in those last days." Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you know where your 3 children are?
I don't. I know where Gregory is, my one. He's in the living room running around. But my other 2, I don't know. I don't have an idea.
You have 2 of your children.
I have 4 children total. I have an 18-year-old and I have triplets who are 7. I have my 18-year-old who is Bryce. I have one of my 7-year-olds who's Gregory, and Malcolm and Melina are missing. I haven't seen them since they were 2 days old.
Does the father help?
No, he's not involved at all.
Okay. All right. You need a good attorney. You need detectives. You need attorneys.
I talked to over 60 attorneys. I talked to the NAACP. I paid out so much at first because when I first got out of jail, I was just going. Like I was doing everything.
Determined.
I was
to get them.
I was, and my spirits
determined
have
to
been
get
broken.
justice and determined to get your children. So you're in a safe place. Are you safe right now?
Yes, I'm safe right now.
You're safe.
Yes, absolutely.
Never tell anyone where you're at.
Yes, ma'am.
Stop telling people where you're at from the past.
Yes, ma'am.
And start there where you're at with legal.
Okay.
And other places. Don't go back and try to get legal justice and find those children there in Georgia.
Okay.
I thought I wanted to live in Georgia, but I don't anymore. Not to hear you. And Miss Elaine Riddick.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, I'm in a bad place, too. I'm in a racist area, too, but I can't have children. And I'm glad I can't because I went through something horrible with them trying to get my child from me, even forged letters.
Wow.
So, and these was the black man and white woman. But anyway, God bless you. I'm going to send you a copy of this show. I'm going to send it to as many people as I can. I'm sorry your children were stolen. I'm sorry Georgia did that. I'm sorry Fulton County did that. I'm sorry that white psychiatrist did you like that. I'm sorry you were assaulted and robbed.
Thank you.
I'm sorry your life has been like it has, but I'm glad you have your 2 children, and I'm glad you're safe. And I hope your other 2 children are safe, too.
Thank you so much.
You may not have them, but I pray those other 2 children are safe and being treated well. I pray to God that they are. God bless you, Miss Shantae McLaughlin.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Start
as well.
there legally.
Yes, I will.
And stay safe. Be safe. Be safe.
I will.
You're safe. Thank you, God.
Safe. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God.
The important thing is you're safe. You're not being robbed. You're not being assaulted. You're not homeless, and you're not in jail. Are you on medication at all?
Yes, I'm on medication.
Stay with your mental health facility. Whoever you're seeing, stay with it and stay on the medication and take the advice of your psychiatrists and doctors there where you're at. You hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Peace
Thank
and blessings.
you. Don't stay with the counselors and psychiatrists.
I will.
And start legally at other places. Don't go back to Georgia.
I won't.
They threatened you there. You told me before this phone call that you were threatened.
I was.
Tell me about it again.
I had some gang members say to me, 4 members of this gang say, if I were you, they said, my children are all right. Where's your children at, the ones you have? If I were you, I'd be trying to make sure that they're safe or something like that, they said. But in 2 days, I have 4 members.
And you have Facebook messages and all those things.
I've been looking for it.
Preserve your evidence. Don't give people your location. I know it's where you made your living at, but you're going to start over.
Yes, ma'am.
Those politicians that you work for who wouldn't help you, only they paid you, of course, for your work you did and your script writing and things like that. Don't go back. Don't go back.
Yes,
They're not for you. They're not helping you. They're paying you. You're not a slave per se, where they're not paying you for your labor. Being paid well and treated like that, don't go back. If you can, stay with your family and try to start there where you're at or somewhere else. But you really need security. Security is what you really need. But especially if you're going to go to Georgia. But I wouldn't go back to Georgia. I would not go back to the state of Georgia and try to work there for those politicians or anyone else.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, ma'am.
Thank you.
That's too many threats, and that's too much happened to one woman. Even if you have to be a cashier, I mean, you're educated. You have all those degrees.
I know.
So maybe you can start with expungement.
They don't expunge in Georgia. They only seal. And so if a police officer, so my charges ended up being terroristic threat, felonious aggravated assault and possession of a knife, and the commencement of another's felony, saying somebody else had a knife and they charged me for it because Georgia doesn't have an accomplice law. And although there's no victim attached to any of those charges, and although dead dockets typically stay on your record for 1 year, then they just drop off, they've been on my record for 7 years. And so Georgia wants me to seal them, and they've told me what I need to do to get it sealed, and I don't want to have it sealed because now
don't go to Georgia and have them sealed. Whatever you do legally, don't go to Georgia to do.
Right.
You're not safe there. I don't care if the politicians are paying you well. Understand me? You're not safe there.
You're right. I agree.
Your children, your 2 children that you have, your grown son and your other child are not safe there. Your family is not safe there.
I agree.
Your mother isn't safe there. Your stepfather isn't safe there. Any of your relatives, cousins, they're not safe there. For you to go back there, don't go back. Smiling faces. Remember those smiling faces? The song about smiling faces?
Mm-hmm.
Tell lies. I know it started with a white woman, an assault and a robbery, and overwork, but don't go back. Take care of your mental health.
I will.
If you want to look for your children, do, but don't go back there to look for them. You need security if you're going to go there. You need paid bodyguards if you're going to look for them children in Georgia.
Yes, ma'am.
And they don't need to come from Georgia. They can't be bribed. They can't be security guards that can be bribed.
Yes, ma'am.
I wouldn't go back, period. I would continue to look for my children, but I just wouldn't go to Georgia and look for them.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
all right.
Ma'am.
You have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
And I'm going to keep your number, and I'm going to keep in touch with you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Stop paying for paint that doesn't protect. Permanently protect your home with our exclusive ceramic base coating. Say goodbye to mold, mildew, and algae, and enjoy decades of defense against chipping, cracking, and peeling. Beautifully durable colors on any surface, all backed by our 25-year transferable warranty. Shield now and pay later with 0% financing. Request your free quote today at rhinoshieldjax.com.
Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.